talk about construction of single-family homes. As most of you know, that buildings in the United States consume about 40% of all the energy produced in the country, 70% of which is electricity, and most of that electricity is produced by coal-fired power plants. So we need to save energy for cost reasons, plus environmental. Today we're going to show you how we construct our homes at Decker Homes to be 50% more efficient, and part of that is because of the way we frame our homes so they can be insulated to the maximum that's possible. So I'm going to point out different features of our home that allow us to do so, and it's a matter of training the framing crew, the carpenters, on construction techniques, and it's not difficult, it's not rocket science, but it's got to be done as a whole system of a whole house, and it all works together to come up with a house that's 50% more efficient than the average home that's built prior to 2000. We'll start with how we frame our homes. Here's an example right here of how we have what we call a open corner, so you can insulate behind it. That's called a two-stud corner. Some builders call it a California corner. But you can see how we can insulate right behind. And again, we're trying to get at all these places that are hard to insulate, hard to get at. And this is one of them. And right up above you, we have what's called a raised rafter plate. I'll point to that. The raised rafter plate. This rafter up here would normally come down on this plate right here. We've raised it up so we can insulate this area right here very thoroughly, and this is going to be foam. In our next session we'll cover insulation, and you'll see that this is all foam up in here. This header will be formed. This is called a recessed header. Most headers would be flush, so you couldn't insulate them. This is recessed, so we can foam over the complete header. And then we come to our window, where carpenters are instructed to frame the opening for the window to allow a minimum of ½ inch all around the perimeter, so we can foam this and seal this. And here you can see we have a gasket seal, which is for air and water penetration. We want no air or water to get into this window area, this cavity. And again, we're foaming all around the entire perimeter of the window. And then over at this area here, we have this is called a standoff wall intersection, where we now can insulate behind. Normally the carpenter would take this framing member and put it right against the stud. So by leaving it offset, we can insulate again that hard to get at area. Another thing I might point out, you can see this insulation is installed behind the tub. Now keep in mind, that wasn't installed by the insulator, that was installed by a plumber. So even your plumbers buy into this concept, they understand it, and it really impacts every trade, from carpenters to plumbers to electricians, and even heating contractors. But this is important because in the past, sometimes that was missed by builders. And if you missed anything, you're going to defeat the whole purpose of this whole envelope of the house. You have to cover every detail. And that's, of course, important for many reasons, condensation among other reasons. But again, it's the plumber. Also want to point out how trade contractors, and we call them professional trade contractors, we don't refer to our trade skilled people as subcontractors. This is how they talk to each other. This is what we show where the studs are. So when the drywallers come in after this is insulated, they don't miss the wall. They know right where the stud is. And they also, the plumber marks over here where the plumbing lines is in orange. So this may not be energy, but it's good construction technique, and it shows how to prevent, you don't want any nails getting in these plumbing lines and having a leak, and that has happened. So we have a like every trade, every profession has a language. This is one of that impacts our language. This is for sign language. The other thing I'd like to point out is we install these barriers, these ceiling barriers. This barrier prevents insulation from a higher raised ceiling from coming over in the attic onto a lower area, creating an uneven surface. So we want our insulation barriers to protect each area of the house that has a raised ceiling against insulation moving around in the attic due to airflow, high winds, and just by gravity. That's, we feel, is very important to have an even 18 inches, 20 inches of insulation in the whole surface in our 50 attic, and that's very important. So when you add up all these features of the standoff wall intersection, the two-stud corner, the raised rafter plate, the insulated headers, and foaming the headers and the raised rafter plate, as you'll see in the next lesson, it goes a long way to contributing to the energy efficiency of the home. Another thing I'd like to point out is this wall surface. This wall surface right here is sometimes, this is called ORN strand board. It's 7/16 inch thick, about almost a half inch. And on the other side of that we have an air infiltration barrier. And the other side of that we have foam. We'll show you a shot of the outside here in a minute, covered with foam. So, and then you have brick, stone, or vinyl, whatever material covers the finished surface. So there's 4 layers of material here before we insulate. And it's very tightly sealed, as we will show you when we move outside and show you how we seal the window and the foam applied to the exterior. The whole home is encapsulated with foam, a half-inch foam. That's our 4th layer, and then the final layer, the finished product, stone, vinyl, or whatever material the customer wants. Sometimes it's wood, sometimes it's siding. So anyway, it contributes 4 layers and a very tight wall surface. The wall is airtight. We have no drafts in our home, and it makes the home very comfortable. You can use a smaller size heating and air conditioning system, and the home very efficient. We'd like to show you again the barrier that retains the insulation in its proper place. This is the barrier we're referring to. The wall, the ceiling on the other side of this room is 12 foot high. This one here is 9. So we have 3 foot we have to protect so that insulation doesn't fall over to the 9th foot level, creating an uneven blanket in the attic. And that's just what we call an insulation barrier in the attic. So let's go outside and take a look at the foam and how we seal the exterior of the window. I also like to point out the foam on the outside we talked about, and also how we tape and seal the window so there's no water or air infiltration. Very important. Also, we have a rubberized membrane that protects the surface against water penetration. This will all be stone. Everything you see here will be covered with stone or brick. In this case, it's stone. And it's very important to keep any water from penetrating this wall cavity throughout the house. I'd just like to point out again how we cover the exterior surface of our homes with foam. This is a half-inch foam. Again, beneath the foam we have a Tyvek air infiltration barrier, and we have the Oriana strand board we talked about, 7/16. And then we actually have this insulation, and then we have a poly over the insulation for a moisture barrier on the inside. We don't want any moisture getting into that wall from the household atmosphere. That's why we use a poly. You'll see that on our next lesson.